Welcome to Moksa Workflow Manager Training movies. This is exercise number 9, fine-tuning approval tasks. We already saw a number of fine-tuning or permission settings in the previous exercise that were valid both for an approval and a commission task. The parameters that we're going to discuss now are specific to the approval task. The first one that I want to highlight is the one where you can add a query to the task, to an approval task, and this query will be performed when the participant opens that approval task. As soon as that specific task is needed, it will perform the query and the resulting records will be added as input records to the task. In case of this approval task, you will not be able to remove them again. So when the task is opened, automatically they are added. If the user just closes the task without finishing it, the next time that he or she will open the task, this query will be performed, and any new files that are added in the meantime will also be added to this task. This is a feature that is not very often used, but it is available in the approval task. The second functionality that is available is the fact that in an approval task you allow the user to upload files. This is also not very common. Normally in an approval task the user just gets records to approve, but sometimes the approval task is used as selection or an approval for the usage of some documents or files. And in that case, the user could be allowed to provide an alternate to say, you cannot use this version, we have a newer version of this picture of this document available, so that this user could reject one and approve the other one. So that could be a reason why you use that feature. For that very same feature, you could allow search in an approval task. It could allow the user to search for an additional file, and that means by searching in sites for an additional file to add to the workflow, the user then proposes an alternate for a selection that was maybe made. Both of these functionalities are by default disabled. Something that is very commonly used is the approve all and reject all buttons. These functionalities offer the user the possibility to approve all records and or reject all records in the task with one click without having to go to every single record to approve. It depends if you want to offer the user that functionality. Again, by default, both these functionalities are disabled. The last thing that we will cover in this example is metadata template. You can define a metadata template for this task. A metadata template is defined in the Cumulus client and is a selection of fields. By selecting these fields and storing them in a metadata template, you allow the user to edit these fields. You can allow an individual edit of a record by specifying this parameter, or you can allow an edit of all the records at the same time with this functionality. So let's do this in an example. In this example, I will copy this information and I will simply go into my task. I will start by creating a new workflow, and instead of starting from scratch, I'm going to use the same workflow that we used before in our previous exercise. So I'm just duplicating this workflow template and giving it a new name. This is fine-tuning the approval task. And as we explained in previous training exercises, the duplication of the category is only the duplication of the category. You can notice that there are no workflow tasks in this workflow. If you also want to duplicate the tasks itself, then you can select your open workflow graphic, and you can load tasks from another workflow, preferably the same one in this case, since we are going to reconstruct the same workflow, only changing a few of the parameters. Here is my workflow, and what I want to do with this workflow is I want to personalize, in this case, the approval task. So I'm going into the approval task, and I see that this is indeed the task that I want to personalize. As in all the previous examples of the parameter personalization, you don't go into the edit task to do it. We only go in to check if it's the valid task to edit. We have to go to the record information, and in the record information we have this workflow parameters field. I can just copy paste this in and remove all the unwanted explanations. And now I have all these parameters defined in here. First thing I want to do is allow upload in the task. So I have to specify the label I want to give that. I want to allow search, so I can add the label for that. And then I want to add approve all and reject all. If you have a look here, and it always says what you have to do. So for instance, for the upload, it says specify the name of, specify the label of the button. And so for instance here for the approve all, and for the metadata template, it says that you have to specify the name of the metadata template. Here in the manual there's a little typo. It should say specify for the upload the label of the button. So we can quickly modify that. So that is fixed. If we go back here into the task, I can say for approve all, I can say approve all. And for reject all, I can say reject all. Then for the metadata template, I'm going to save this, and I'm first going to check if for this Cumulus administrator user, the user that is running the backend, if there is a metadata template defined. I can see here that I have one that is called commission task, and you can call them whatever you like, but for the purpose of clarity in the example, I'm going to create another one and call this approval task. Approval template. I don't have to share it. If I don't want to share it, there's no need, as long as this user is able to see it. And these are the fields. I can add whatever field I like, but in the workflow you can only edit text fields or drop down fields. So I added this approval task. So now I can go back into my task, and here I can say that I want to use the approval task. So it's approval template. And if I want an approve all and bulk edit on all records of the task, I can do it that way. So I personalized my task. Again, if this is valid for all my approval tasks in this workflow, I could simply do that a level above in the category information of this workflow at this place. But in this example, we did it for that individual task. Another nice feature that I want to highlight is if you go in this approval task, you can add a screenshot to this approval task. You can add a screen representation of your workflow. It can be whatever picture, but if I take a screenshot of this and I select that part, put it in the clipboard, I can go to the information window of my workflow, go to the workflow and add here in the thumbnail, do a paste, Ctrl V, to add that thumbnail here. You cannot see a lot of that field here, but in the workflow reporter you will be able to see the workflow graph. There will be a tab appearing that says workflow graph that will enable you to get that picture in your workflow reporter. Good, we have now prepared our workflow so we can run it. I'm going here. I'm logging in as a user with the proper permissions. This user can go into the workflow portal. I see my newly created workflow and I go right into the workflow. In terms of input records, I don't want to select anything. I don't have to provide anything. Participants, I'm selecting the participant of this workflow. And I can add, if I want, workflow information, test for 9, and plant location, in this example Belgium. I could add additional instructions, test of approval fine tuning, and that's it. I'm just going to save this and submit, and the task is started, so I can close and I can log out. And now we are waiting for the email coming in for the first person to perform a task. The first task in this workflow was a commission task, so is not the kind of task we are waiting for the fine-tuning. So I'm going to check here in the mail. The task mail has arrived. I click on it. You see test approval fine-tuning. And when I go into the task, it requires a login, because in the previous example we enabled login. So I have to log in and I can open the task. I see what I have to do. I'm in a commission task and I'm asked to provide a new design. So I'm uploading the file. A few moments later, when it is checked, it will appear in your workflow, and I'm submitting this task. The task logs out automatically, and now again we will have to wait for the next mail to come in for the next person in this workflow, which is at this point Martin. Martin has received his task mail, and in this task mail I can click on the link to open the website. In this task I will get all the new functionalities enabled for the workflow. As I can see, I have search, upload, approve all, reject all, edit, and the standard submit and close buttons. Also individually on the record, I now have here an edit button for editing the metadata template. I can make an individual choice, or I can go here and make a choice for all the records. In this example there's only one record, so that is of course very simple. I can go here and add another design, or for instance propose an alternate. And there you have now two designs to approve. So if I say approve all, both of these records will be approved at the same time. I still can change my choice, so if you have 40 records in here, you do an approve all, you could still point to 2 or 3 other records and say that you want to reject those. And so as long as you don't submit, your choice is not final. Search in Sites will allow you to add records. There's a little explanation with it because it involves a few steps. One of the steps is that it will go to the login of Sites because you will be searching in a complete environment of sites with all the catalogs that are available to you. So you are leaving at this point Sites, you are logging in to Sites, and there you can decide to add some additional records to the workflow by putting them in the collection basket. First of all, I'm going to make sure that the collection basket itself is empty, and I say, okay, I want to add these 2 records to the collection basket. And if I look in the collection basket now, a special button appears that is called Save to Task. It says Save to Task, and this will bring you all the way back into the task with these 2 no records. And as you can see, these 2 still require approval. You can individually approve them, or you can individually reject them. So the backend engine will add for all records at all time check on any parameters that are required. And once you're finished, you can submit the task. And at this point, this task is performed, and we used all the new features that are available inside your site's environment. Thank you for joining me in this demo movie. In the next demo movie, we will focus on fine-tuning a commission task.